What's up guys, Jeff from Sorta Healthy here. In today's video, we'll be breaking down some good old-fashioned programming info. As I'm sure you're already aware, today we're focusing on the core, which is probably the most misunderstood area of the body when it comes to resistance training. Core exercise is more trendy than ever lately, and a lot of what's talked about is unfortunately bullshit. So, what is the core? Well, the core can be defined in a few different ways. Sometimes the glutes, hamstrings, quads, lats, traps, and other mid and upper back muscles are defined as core muscles, but for today's purposes, let's just say our client's core muscles are the ones you're looking at now. These are the torso or trunk muscles that do a number of different things. They flex, extend, and rotate the spine. They actually do a lot to stabilize and protect your spine too. Your core muscles also do a ton to transfer power from the lower body to the upper body. When a boxer throws a punch, that motion starts at the legs and hips. Power and torque are generated down there and then transferred through the core to the upper extremities, in this case a fist. A weak core equals a weak punch because too much power is lost along the way. So let's say we have a fairly new client, we'll call her Cassie. Cassie is 35 and is seeking our help in particular because she wants to strengthen and tone her core. She hasn't been active in a while, but she's done some yoga and Pilates in the past. She's going to be seeing us twice a week and then doing Pilates roughly twice a week as well. Who isn't doing Pilates these days, I guess? We'll talk about that soon. So let's say we have a three-prong resistance training approach to getting Cassie to her goals. After covering what those are, we'll get into some general tips for working with the core in 2026 and beyond. I find that there is often very specific communication that needs to take place between client and trainer when it comes to the core specifically. Anyways, the first prong or line of defense is just general strengthening with mostly compound exercises. This is honestly the best tool for strengthening the core. That is the interesting thing, or at least I think it is. The best core exercises aren't even really core exercises because at the end of the day, basically everything is a core exercise if you're doing it right. Squats, yep, you have to have a tight core there. Bench press, deadlifts, rows, etc. Yeah, of course, bracing for all of those is key. Even single joint exercises like triceps pushdowns train the core to some extent. So again, most core work that we give our clients is just the regular good stuff. Now, some standard exercises do train the core more than others. If your core isn't tight during a barbell squat, you're gonna fold over and get crushed. Standing overhead press is similar. Some core involvement is happening here too, but it's likely less. So in a standard workout with a client, you might be programming 10 to 15 exercises depending on the length of your session and capabilities of your client. Let's say these are the ones we're doing with Cassie today: goblet squats, reverse lunges, stability ball hip thrust, dumbbell bench press, tricep extensions, cable rows, face pulls, pal-off press, single leg jackknives, and a Bosu plank. By the way, this chart can be downloaded for free at the link below in the video description. I also break it down in these two programming videos. If you'd be so kind as to like this video and subscribe to the channel, we'd really appreciate it. Your support helps to keep all of this stuff free. Thank you so much, guys. I love you all. Anyways, with the general exercises such as goblet squats, for example, I'll run my client through normal cueing. Shift your weight back onto your heels and hips like you're sitting back into a chair, back flat, shoulders down and back, etc. You don't want to overload them with too much info at once. Every once in a while, whether my client is doing this goblet squat or hip thrusts off a ball or whatever, if I suspect that my client is being a little too loosey-goosey with those core muscles, I'll say something like, "Hey Cassie, when you're doing that curl, I want you to keep your abs tight like you're about to get punched. Keep breathing normal, but keep those core muscles a little bit braced like you're about to block a punch." It's good to get your client a little bit used to this feeling since this is the best state for them to be in for many lifts. I find that most other cues don't make much sense to the average person, but many understand the punch one. Again, avoid throwing too much info at a client at once. The next prong or method of attack are isometrics. Unlike the previously mentioned exercises, these will typically more directly focus on core muscles. For those who don't know, which you really should know by the point you're watching this, but anyways, isometric exercises are static, or basically there's no muscle lengthening or shortening taking place. I like to incorporate more isometrics into beginner clients' routines. They can also be useful for clients who have orthopedic issues since the risk for injury is typically a bit lower. It's not always true, but generally I would consider most isometrics on the easy easier side. Exercises with a concentric and eccentric phase have been shown to be more effective for building muscle mass, so we don't want to go too crazy with these isometric moves. That said, for many, these exercises have their place. I find that isometrics such as the plank or boat or even a static pal-off press can be useful tools for increasing that mind-muscle connection to core muscles. So typically with a beginner client, I'll throw 1 or 2 isometric core moves in there, especially if they've let me know they want to work on the core a little bit extra, or if they feel like they would benefit from some more core specific stuff. Most core moves I'll include aren't isometric, and we'll talk about all of those in a sec. Real quick though, how do you know when someone needs extra core work? Well, reason number 1 would be if they request it. At the end of the day, it's our job to get people to a desired outcome. If they want extra core work, it's usually not an amazing idea to try to talk them out of it. We'll break this communication stuff down more soon. Reason number 2 would be if they're suffering from low back pain. Stronger core can help out a low back in need. We know it, and they probably know it too. Reason number 3, and this one is less important than the other 2, but still relevant, is that they look like this or they've got an overly lordotic posture. I know some of you will jump down to the comments and say posture stuff is bullshit. However, in my 15-ish years of training, having worked with thousands of clients, people who look like this are definitely more likely to have neck, shoulder, and back issues, and people who look like this are more likely to have low back issues. Your core simply can't work as well from this position since these muscles are in a constantly elongated and weakened state, which is no bueno for the low back. So I'm not NASM, I don't think posture is the end-all be-all, but I've definitely seen correlations between posture and injury risk. The third prong is to strengthen the multiple layers of the core. So we have the rectus abdominis. This is the six-pack muscle. It's an outer core muscle and it flexes the spine. We train this by doing crunch or sit-up type movements. I like a combination of different things here. We do want at least 1 or 2 movements we can progress over time. Cable crunches or weighted crunches are good because it's easy to just add weight here and there. Peppering in some exercises like the bicycle crunch or single leg jackknives can be good too. They're just not as easy to progress going forwards, and therefore your clients could eventually plateau if you're only doing these types of moves. The transversus abdominis is the deeper core muscle that isn't visible, but it does do a lot to stabilize the spine. Dead bugs, planks, pal-off press, rollouts, farmer's carries, these are some of my favorite transversus abdominis exercises. We also have the obliques. I like side planks, torso rotation, side bends, Russian twists, and different types of carries for these. The last group of muscles we'll talk about here are the spinal extensors, your glutes, erector muscles, and the QL are these guys. They all typically get a lot of work throughout a balanced exercise program, but that being said, don't sleep on exercises like Supermans, lumbar extensions, and the like. Having some moves like these in the weekly routine can help to shore up weak spots that your client likely has. So in the first workout, we only had 3 true core exercises, even though, like we said before, technically everything is a core exercise. Anyways, the pal-off press is hitting multiple layers. Really, it's hitting everything at once, but I'd say it's a better oblique and transversus abdominis move than anything else. We have the single leg jackknives, which are an old school feel the burn rectus abdominis move. We also have a static plank variation in there. Our client is newer to resistance training, but she's not totally out of shape. This is a good variation for her. We've got her twice a week, so in the next workout, maybe we'd throw some weighted crunches at her. Again, we want some moves in there that we can easily progress over time. I might throw some rollouts in there too. Rollouts are great, and there's some good variations and progressions. Then maybe I'd put a plank drag in there too. Of course, this would all be alongside all of the other stuff that we did in that second workout, which all of that stuff would still technically be core stuff. How do you know if your core programming is good? Ask yourself these 5 questions. 1. Are we hitting all the core muscles weekly or at least bi-weekly? 2. Are at least some of our core exercises moves that can be progressed? I'm not just talking about making someone do a bicycle crunch for a stupid amount of time. I'm talking about exercises that you can actually add weight to. We can't forget about progressive overload. 3. Are we making sure our clients are bracing when they're doing lifts throughout the workout? 4. Are we communicating effectively through the session? Are we asking questions like, how did that exercise feel? Easy, medium, or hard? Did that exercise fatigue your core? Many clients, usually female ones, who want to tone the midsection or tighten the belly. They want to feel that core burn at a few points during the session. It would be silly for us not to oblige them. 5. Do they actually feel like they're achieving their goals? Is their core getting stronger, toned, leaner, whatever you want to call it? And this brings us to the last section of this video, core communication. When you get a Cassie who signs up to tone her core, it's important to convey some messages early, as in you'll tell her some stuff in that initial meeting, but it's also important to have good day today and session to session talks as well. Anyways, it's important for Cassie to know that abs are made in the kitchen. If she wants to appear leaner, what she's eating or really not eating matters far more than whatever core work she's actually doing. I'd let her know very early on that means we need to get her into a caloric deficit, and we'll do some extra core strengthening along the way. We'll achieve the toned look by reducing a little bit of fat mass and adding some muscle mass. Usually there's some talk about using an app like MyFitnessPal here, but that's a topic for another day. Anyways, try not to sound too pretentious or wordy during this messaging. Cassie doesn't give a It's also potentially good for Cassie to know that the feel the burn core exercises aren't always the best. Bicycle crunches are good, but there's not too many ways to advance that movement without just throwing more time at her. A combination of these feel the burn exercises and ones like these tend to make Cassies very happy and deliver the results they're looking for and then some. It's also good to let Cassies know that good old-fashioned strength training is one of, if not the best way to strengthen their core. Again, don't say this in a wordy, pretentious way. That will backfire at some point. Also consider adding some single arm variations in here and there, just for a little bit of extra core stability while training other parts of the body. Cassies are very into things like Pilates right now. It's trendy. Will it stay popular over the next 5 years, 10 years? Who knows? I think anything that gets people more active is definitely good, Pilates included. That said, Pilates, yoga, and anything else similar, that stuff really shouldn't be as effective for building muscle, including a defined, strong core compared to your training. We shouldn't outright say that, at least not with most clients. If you have a Cassie riding the current Pilates wave or something similar, say, "That's awesome that you're doing Pilates too. I'll make sure to include some core strengthening into our routine that's different, but will complement what you're doing there." What do you guys think though? On a somewhat related note, is Pilates the next fad or is it here to stay? I think it's somewhere in between, kind of like what we saw with Orange Theory type places about 5 to 10 years ago. There's obviously still plenty of Orange Theories and F45s around, but they're closing a fair number of locations too. If any of you have any questions or comments on core training, let me know down below in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe on your way out of here. Love you guys, and until next time, stay sorta healthy.